Human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, leads to AIDS, or acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV is transmitted primarily via unprotected sexual intercourse, contaminated blood transfusions, hypodermic needles, and from mother to child during pregnancy, delivery, or breastfeeding. There is no cure or vaccines to prevent it. Prevention exists only through safe sex and needle exchange programs. AIDS is considered a pandemic, a disease outbreak which is present over a large area and is actively spreading. According to UNICEF.org, 380,000 people in Indonesia of all ages were estimated to be living with HIV in the year of 2011. In the following interview, Gabriel Martinez speaks to us about sex work in Indonesia as a vector of HIV and AIDS.
All right, my name is Gabriel Martinez. And then I moved to Indonesia with my wife, and that's where we are now. We've been here for about going on 2 years. 2 years for me. She's been here about 3 years. And we're living in the city of Medan, Indonesia, which is about the third largest city in Indonesia.
You and your wife are out there. What organization are you with?
Shortly after we moved here, we got involved with an NGO nonprofit organization called P3M, which they do a lot of work to help women who have been stuck in prostitution, women who have been trafficked. They also do a lot of work to spread education about HIV awareness and sexually transmitted diseases. Of course, all this is just sort of their means to getting women out of prostitution. That's their main goal, is to help the women who are stuck in this terrible situation, to help them get out and start a new life. We've been working with P3M for about going on 2 years maybe. We'll go sometimes and help them hand out condoms and information. Right now they have a home-based care where if a woman wants help to get out of prostitution, she can come live at this home-based care for free to help get her life back on track, and we kind of help maintain that home. We've been a handful of times to the brothels to go talk to women and to go hand out information.
Are you taking a translator, or do you speak the language?
I don't speak the language. My wife Amber, she's a little bit more. She has a little bit more grasp on the language than I do. But we always go with P3M and Wilda, who's an amazing woman. She, of course, is Indonesian, speaks Indonesian. She also speaks English pretty well, so she kind of acts as our interpreter. Wilda, she's one of the 3 women who started P3M. She's kind of the head of the organization. She is a ex-prostitute. She was a prostitute from probably the age of 16 until her late 20s. So about 10 years of prostitution and experience in that world. And then she decided she didn't want to do anymore, and she got help from an organization called Medan Plus, which they help spread HIV awareness. She got help from them, and then in turn they helped her start an organization with 3 other reformed prostitutes who also got help from them to help women in this struggle to get out. So Wilda is sort of the head of this organization. She's running the show. She's going to the brothels, talking to these women. A lot of these women view sex as their only way to make money. That their bodies are all they have, really. They don't have education, they don't have opportunity, but they do have this body, and they can make money from it. And they can make a lot of money depending on where they are. So money does sometimes become a factor, but generally the first thing that led them to that is lack of opportunity, maybe sexual abuse in the past. Just about every story about prostitution I've heard began with some sort of sexual exploit in their past. Either they were raped as a child or their parents sold them. I've even heard stories that their friends sold them into sexual slavery. They just took them to a different town and sold them to a brothel, and now they're kind of prisoners there. It's definitely not, for many of them, not a choice, or at least not an easy choice or a pleasurable choice. It's definitely slavery.
How do these women deal with gender roles? Like, do they perceive themselves still female and enjoy hetero sexual life?
I've met women who have their boyfriends, and then they're also prostitutes, which sometimes boyfriend here can mean like pimp. It's like they're kind of like their code word for their pimp, because they have no real word for like a pimp.
Okay.
So they'll talk about their boyfriend. Oh yeah, my boyfriend sold me here, or this is my boyfriend, or whatever. And he's kind of in control of the situation. So some of them do have that. There are a vast majority of these women who do have sex with men, but are actually attracted to women. And I can see that mostly happening because their whole life they've been mistreated by men. They've been, abused. They've been taken advantage of by men. So the only person they're going to find comfort in and be able to relax with is another woman. It's very important that P3M shows no judgment towards the prostitutes and towards the men and women seeking them.
Yeah, of course.
From like the society standpoint, there is a stigma for women who are prostitutes and men who are prostitutes. People have been kicked out of their families when they find out that they're prostitutes, or I've heard women in the brothels who say, yeah, I work here during the day, but no one in my family knows. They think I go somewhere else for work. They think I do something else. And every night I go home and I lie to them, basically. Because if their family knew, they would kick them out, they would excommunicate them, they would have nothing. This is a society or a culture that is very family oriented. You stay with your family until you're married, and then once you're married, you begin your own family, and then sort of that thing. You live nearby your family. Finding out that a woman is a prostitute can be very dangerous. They can kick her out. They can stop talking to them completely, sort of shut them out, which really only drives the women into prostitution further at that point, because now they have nowhere to go. They have no family and no money and no one to help them. So they just wind up going into prostitution even further. Women in certain jobs aren't, they don't have the same rights or the same equal opportunity the way we do in America now. And these women are there because their family basically kick them out of their house, kick them out of their family because these women have HIV. And so these women had nowhere to go, so they moved into P3M. Of course, these women are also very susceptible to aggressive sexual activity. I've definitely seen with my own eyes going to the brothels women who are heavily influenced under alcohol, drugs, sort of to disconnect from the reality that they're living in. Healthcare is not really affordable to the average person. I've heard from different sources, from some of my other local friends, of if you don't have money in your pocket, you don't get taken care of at the hospital. They'll shuffle you along to the next hospital. This homeless man and his son was sick, dying, and this man was carrying him around in a wheelbarrow going from hospital to hospital. He had no money, and the hospitals kept turning him away because there was no money to treat this boy. So he kept going from hospital to hospital, and eventually the the boy died while his dad was carrying him to the next hospital, and by the time he got to the next hospital, his son was dead, and at that point there was definitely nothing anyone could do about it. So he had to take his son somewhere else to go get buried, presumably. But stuff like that happens more often than not. You try to take care of yourself on your own before you go to the hospital. Because in Indonesia, it's very much like you have to have money if you want treatment. Their currency is a rupiah, and it's really weird. It's really strange. It kind of looks like monopoly money. $1 is equal to about 10,000 rupiah. The average Indonesian person makes about 1 million rupiah a month, which is equal to about $100 a month in American money. A sex worker can usually make a couple million a week, maybe, depending again on. It has a lot to do with which brothel you're working in, what type of girl you are or person you are. Obviously younger, so it sort of varies, but on average it's usually a couple million a week. So when they're faced with that idea that they can make a couple million a week, if they have an education and go to school and work a manual labor job, they make about $1 million a month. The choice is pretty obvious there, what they're gonna do. You can either work really hard and make $1 million a month, or you can do something a little bit morally flexible and make a couple million a week. It's really important to the Muslim culture that you stay pure before marriage, sexually pure, for both men and women. But there's a little less stigma for a man before he's married to see a prostitute, because it's almost like that doesn't count. As well as in marriage, it's not as frowned upon for a man to go see a woman who is a prostitute. It's almost like that doesn't count either. As opposed to like a man cheating on his wife with another woman who's not a prostitute. I wouldn't say that that's the rule, that it's written down anywhere. It's just sort of socially acceptable. And then, of course, in the touristy areas of Indonesia, there are a lot of sort of sex tourism. The male prostitutes are referred to as ladyboys, mostly because they're men who dress up as women, as the name would suggest. Female prostitutes usually refer to their pimps or their, I guess, bosses as their boyfriends, mainly because there's no word for pimp in Indonesian. That's a really American or westernized idea. So to these women, these are just sort of the men in the I guess most common man in their life would be their boyfriend, or even their husband. Their husband would, sort of sell them on this. A lot of people living with HIV in Indonesia don't even know they have it. So they really actually don't have an accurate number on how many people in Indonesia are living with HIV, because so much of it goes undocumented. One of the main points of P3M is the education of a disease and safe sex practices. Again, when they go to the brothels, they take all their condoms, they take their information pamphlets and stuff. And some of these women have never seen a condom before. They don't know how to use it. They don't know what it's used for. So P3M will, show them, okay, this is what you do. You put it on and stuff like that. And of course, it always turns into giggling. They hand out condoms to the men as well, the men seeking prostitutes. And sometimes the men won't take the condoms because that's almost like admitting that they're doing something bad.
So you also approach the people trying to get prostitutes.
Yeah, that's also another big part of what P3M does. Not only do they educate the women, they also try to educate the men seeking the prostitutes. Try not to shame these men, because that's really not going to get you anywhere. But if you come up to them very honestly and say, these are condoms, they'll help keep you safe. Here's some information on STDs and HIV awareness. You're more likely to get a positive response that way. The brothels are mainly controlled by criminal organizations, for the most part. If they're not directly controlled by it, then they sort of have like a tribute system, the way we've all seen like mafia movies where you pay off the mafia to keep your neighborhood safe. It's sort of the same situation here. You pay off these criminal organizations. They keep your businesses safe. They give you protection where the cops won't give you protection. Another weird thing is the corruption is very prevalent especially in Indonesia, in this island of Sumatra. The cops are very well known for being corrupt. The politicians are corrupt. So a lot of times what happens is these brothels will pay off the cops every month, and the cops leave their brothels alone. Because prostitution is illegal in Indonesia. But if you pay off the cops, they're not going to bother you. I've heard a story where this one particular brothel didn't pay off the cops. They just didn't want to. They didn't feel like they needed to. And so instead of giving the cops, the police, money every month to keep their business going, about every 6 months, the police would raid the brothel, arrest about 20 women, and take them into the police station and say, okay, either you can be arrested and we'll throw you in jail for prostitution, or you can give us however much money, X amount of money. Usually it was like 20 million rupiah, which is, I don't know, about $2,000. Yeah, so then the brothel will have to come back and pay off the cops, and the girls get to go free. They don't get thrown in jail. So either you pay off the cops monthly, or you pay them off every couple of months, when they come and arrest you.
Felt this way.